to thank all of you for being here tonight, showing your support for our veterans, whether they be your family members or even yourself. I know that they teach us to be humble in the military, so we don't like getting the limelight and being in the spotlight for everyone to kind of stare at and ridicule, watching, judging. That's usually the Sergeant Major's job. He comes by and inspects and sees whether or not you've met the standard, because there is no high standard, low standard. There's the Army standard, and you meet it or you don't. Well, I don't like wearing this uniform a whole lot anymore. Not that I dislike the uniform, it's just not as comfortable as my regular clothes. But when a man the caliber of Command Sergeant Major Zepeda asks you to speak, first off, no is not an option. Roger, Sergeant Major is the only answer. You better be there early, which is on time. When I signed up for the Army, I did not know what I was getting into. My dad, a Vietnam vet, alluded to that evening. You're a fool, son. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, I believe were his exact words. But that was not his decision to make. That was mine. And I am forever grateful for the opportunity that the Army gave me. Not just to serve my country, but the values and discipline they gave me lead me through every single day of my life. They allowed me to be an engaged parent, spouse, and she's really in charge of the businesses we own. So, I don't want to say business owner. I tell you that I'm the janitor at the place. So if it looks clean, you're welcome. The Army taught me how to buff things pretty well. When I signed up for the Army, I went down and took my ASVAB here in Sacramento. I graduated from Grant High School in 2000. For those of you who have ever driven around Grant High School, I apologize. Please avoid the area. It's not safe. Good news is it helped prepare me for what I was going to find in my future, which was a lot of chaos, turmoil, hardship, and heartbreak. But the people I served with, they were giants, and I was lucky to walk among them for a short amount of time in my life. I signed up for the Army on 9/11, and I spent nearly 7 years in it. Over 3 years of that was overseas. I didn't do paperwork. I wasn't your dental assistant, though I definitely appreciate our clerks and all those folks who made sure that my leave paperwork got stamped and I got to go home when it was time. We appreciate you. I was a forward observer, and now they call us FISTers. And I didn't make that term up. I inherited it, gifted it, earned it, you might say. As a FISTer, it stands for Fire Support Team. My job is to go with the infantry and keep them safe with artillery. For those of you who like math, I picked a job where I would be getting shot at and then have a math quiz. Maybe I was a little quick jump the gun there on the West picking. Now, I scored very high on my ASVAB. They told me I could pick any job I wanted. And at first it sounded great. And then they started describing them, and I thought, that's not as adventurous as I was thinking. Well, lucky me. I know how to run my mouth. And so I told that Sergeant First Class that I just wanted to blow stuff up, and stuff wasn't the word I used. Now this was September 12th, 2001. Yesterday we got attacked. And he said, no problem, Toby. You want to be a cannon copper or a FISTer? Now both of those scared me to death because I didn't want to be either one of them. I wasn't even sure what he was saying. But I learned very quickly that being a forward observer, being a FISTer was going to be the greatest honor of my life, next to being a husband and dad. I got to go protect our nation's warfighters, real gunslingers, just like my daddy. My dad was in Vietnam. He was in the Navy. He was on swift boats, and he got to do a lot of cool stuff. But my dad wouldn't tell me about that. He didn't want to talk about it. He buried it about as deep as you can get. His dad was in World War II. He was on the USS Hornet in the Battle of the Midway. Now, I fought a war on the ground, and I can tell you, jumping out of planes and pulling stuff up, school gig. I also surf. I love doing the fun stuff. couldn't imagine fighting a war in the middle of the ocean. That sounds more terrifying than being a dad some days to teenage daughters. My job came with a lot of responsibility, stress. They gave me these papers, told me to go to this building where I knew absolutely nobody. 0 people were my friends. Somehow, I was supposed to learn to get along with these people, invade a country I'd never been to, and take over the place. I was pretty young, and that seemed very daunting. But what that taught me was, we don't do things alone. In fact, anyone who's ever said, I did this by myself, I got here all by myself, well, those people are liars. If I would have went to war to Iraq by myself, I would have been dead pretty quick. I'm not that fast. And despite the fact that I was in the 4th Infantry Division, we call ourselves Ivy League, because we think we're smarter than the other divisions. Well, my buddies got shot and killed too. And that was hard. That was a big hit to my ego. We're called the king of battle in the artillery, and you go with the infantry, who's the queen of battle. And that comes with its own whole slew of jokes and derogatory comments to each other. That's how we lift each other up and encourage one another. My job is to go with the infantrymen and protect them with artillery. When we got to Baghdad in 2003, wasn't really sure what that was going to look like. Thought we were going to get big tank battles. But we were getting attacked by people with small arms and trucks, vehicles, putting bombs on the side of the road and piles of trash, or even dead animals. It was scary, terrifying. Courage is being scared to death and doing it anyways. Something many of you know all about. My first squad leader was Jared Monty. Jared's parents got the Medal of Honor when Jared was killed in July 2006, saving everyone's life. To say that I had big boots to fill would be a joke, because Jared was 5'6", and I think his shoe size was like 7. I could probably fit his boots, but the caliber man that individual was, I don't think I could ever live up to it. Kinda. I didn't get the Medal of Honor, but I came home. I brought my men home. For me, it's better than any medal they could ever give me. They didn't all come home. I lost 9 guys that year, as you heard earlier. If you've ever spent any time out here on the golf course with me, or even a few minutes, it doesn't take me very long to get to it. I wear these dog tags every day of my life, and they don't have my information on them. My social security number, my rank. It has my brother's names. Every day when I get out of bed, before I go relieve myself in the morning, I put these on my neck. They get me out of bed, and they propel me forward. Everything they gave up, everything they sacrificed, I'm reminded of when I open my eyes. They gave up all of their tomorrows for our today. It's a heavy cost. In fact, today when I was on Facebook this morning scrolling, I saw one of the daughters of one of our killed in action. Jones was 21 when he was killed. He was shot in the head by a sniper. His second daughter was getting ready to be born. His oldest daughter just graduated college. A dozen of my brothers showed up to her high school graduation and made sure she knew that if she was going to college, that she wasn't doing this alone. Veterans Day is hard for her. Her dad's gone. She was just a kid, a toddler when he was killed in action. She doesn't have to go through each day alone. The brotherhood that we share is something stronger than I could ever articulate to you guys. I know that because what I do now, to me, gives me greater joy than serving my country. I help save these guys' lives, their careers, and their families now. It's invaluable to me. They served our country in hopes that it would make the world a better place. And when they came home, they struggled. I struggled. I struggled so much that I did not believe that I would ever stop this cycle. I felt inadequate. I was scared. I had anxiety. I thought people were going to attack me. I didn't go to Walmart unless it was 3 o'clock in the morning. If you'd have told me that I would have mental health issues 10 years ago, I would have laughed in your face and told you to move along. Wrong guy. But I know better than that. You see, when I was a freshman in high school, I walked into my dad getting ready to commit suicide. I stopped him. We're lucky he's still here. My grandfather, who was the World War II vet, he did commit suicide when my dad got sent to Vietnam. I never heard his stories. Never got to thank him for helping save the planet. So now I want to turn it a little bit over on the other side. A lot of that is negative and it's sad. And what it is grief that has no place to go. See, the Army taught me how to go to war, but they did not teach me how to come home. They didn't teach me how to teach my men to come home from that battlefield. You can't turn it off. If you ask one of my kids over there, do we bring balloons in the car anymore? The answer is no. Because when it pops, Dad might think he's getting shot at again. I don't like that feeling. And so I do the turtle. And I look to see where I'm getting shot at from so I can return fire. Turns out, just my kids. And they weren't actually shooting at me. And that's okay. They just want to be kids. And some of the things that I brought home stopped them from doing that. This affected my kids. I felt more guilt. How could I have let this happen? I saw my dad do it. He struggled. He didn't know how to talk about Vietnam. Some of you understand that more than you want to. I have seen the worst of humanity, what one person is willing to do to another. And I've also seen the best of humanity, what one person is willing to do to another to help them. You see, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my wife, for my kids. My wife, Fawn, has poured unconditional love into me when I didn't think I deserved it, when I didn't think I could reciprocate it. I didn't feel worthy. That's something very hard to say in front of a room full of strangers. I felt inadequate. I used to jump out of planes, rappel from helicopters, and blow crap up for a living. Now, I know a lot of you think most of the people in the military blow stuff up. The truth is, and I'm sorry for your egos, guys, but we let you throw a grenade in basic training. After that, sit back and watch the fireworks. Don't touch anything. It's pretty serious stuff. But when you have 19-year-olds with machine guns and bombs, we're less serious about it than we probably should be. We joke around. In fact, we're morbid with our humor. Because if we think about it, life can be very ugly. Everyone experiences loss, grief, sadness in life, whether you've been to combat or not. We all lose someone we care about, that we love. But when you're 20-something and they lose their life to a violent death and you're serving your country, it is different. The weight is heavier. I can't explain it. But I know it's true. Earlier this year, I lost my first blood-related sibling. My older sister, Krista, died. And that was hard. It was excruciating. And it felt the exact same as my brothers who died in combat. And when I heard Taps play, it would be the same as if they played it right now. I'd cry like a little baby. I miss these guys. This is the cost of being a veteran. I am a survivor. For those who didn't come home, it is my opportunity, my duty, and more importantly, my honor to live a life worthy of their sacrifice. I wasn't doing that in the beginning. When I got home, I was drinking myself to death, and I didn't like me very much. The reason it's easy for me to stand up here and tell you that I've struggled with my mental health is because you couldn't possibly think worse of me than I have thought of myself. I thought all I brought to this world was death and destruction. For those of you who have seen Band of Brothers, last week I took a group from the 101st Airborne Division, and we climbed Mount Currahee in Toccoa, Georgia. where the original Band of Brothers climb ran 3 miles up, 3 miles back. 30 seconds after them starting to meet each other at the airport, realizing what they're about to do, which is see each other for the first time since 2006. It was like they were 19 years old again in the barracks, planning how to get some underage alcohol in that barracks and have a good time. Except they're 40 now, and they have arthritis. To be honest with you, I'm beyond blessed to be standing here in front of you tonight. I did get blown up in Iraq. I was strapped on my back. I have a traumatic brain injury. I forget things. I called my wife my hard drive because she helped me remember all the stuff that's important. She texts me messages and has applications on my phone that I call long-range nagging to make sure that I get the stuff done. And I still fail. Before, when I would fail, it would lead me down a very dark path of depression and suicidal ideation. It doesn't do that anymore. Part of that is because I do self-care. I talked my wife into letting me join a country club so I can play golf several times a week. Call it exercise. 2 weeks ago, I talked my doctor into writing on my note from the VA that I could potentially use a little more of it. That's a true story.
It's not funny, John.
When you serve your country, those stars will strike. They mean something a little more. I've seen that flag draped over my brother's coffins. And I know that when they got home, their family was gonna grieve. And it wasn't gonna be for one day on Memorial Day. It was gonna be every day of their life until they passed on. I know that because it affects my life every day too. But today is not about those who passed on. It's about those of us who are still here. And we have to allow ourselves to be celebrated for what we have done. Now, as I mentioned when I started, that's hard for a group of very humble people who are all about the team. I've always put my team before myself. And that nearly cost me again. My wife showed me that it was important to put myself first so that I could be physically fit, mentally fit, so that I could handle the stresses of life. Now, I've been through a lot of crap, and something tells me life isn't done throwing me curveballs yet. So I'm resilient. I built my support system up, and I lean on that when I struggle. I don't run away from my problems because no problem is ever solved by running away from it. I lean in. I ask people for help, and that's also not easy. It's why we started Warfighter Overwatch. It is a veteran and first responder nonprofit. I help police officers, firefighters, veterans, and their families deal with trauma. I'm an expert in trauma. It's not something that I ever wanted to be an expert in, but here we are. So you spent a lot of time and money teaching me to be a leader. I wasn't growing from my experiences. I was suppressing them and shutting them down. I talk about them openly, candidly now. I don't have to get into gory details about what happened to my friends. It was bad. Bad enough that the ones who did survive came home with scars that you can't see. They don't go away. Many of you in this room are carrying some of those. My dad would not talk about his time in war until September 11, 2001, and it took a whole bunch of alcohol for him to open that can of worms, Pandora's box, if you will. He was terrified what his son was going to go through. And he was probably right. Yeah. The older I get, the more he was right. But this country is worth fighting for. It sure as hell ain't perfect. Makes me mad on a daily basis. And I could complain about those things, or I could do something about it. And I choose to take action. Because that's what people like Sergeant Richards and pay the top people like me. When you're a young soldier and you get sent to that building where you don't know anybody, within a few months, you know everybody. And they know you. And they push you. They encourage you to be better. You are the average of the people you surround yourself with. Choose wisely. I've had people who wanted to take me down to the bar and just drink, buy me drinks, keep me drunk. Or maybe do drugs, maybe that'll make you feel better. No, it doesn't. You see, if you stop drinking and stop taking drugs, your problems will persist. They will be there. I don't have to worry about that so much as I know I'm going to have problems. But I have a support system. I have a plan in place, and I deal with things appropriately. That doesn't mean I don't get frustrated, maybe scream, yell, cuss in my head, sometimes out loud. Much like when I miss a shot out there. Sometimes that happens too. What I was taught by those people who came before me, like you men and women, it was that someone's probably going to ask you to do some stuff you don't really like. It's probably going to make you a little uncomfortable. But you will grow more from your failures than you ever do from success. If we got everything right, we wouldn't learn a whole lot. I have fallen on my face quite a bit, and I'm grateful for those opportunities to learn. I'm thankful that when I came home, I had a community who was willing to help support me and my dream of helping others. It's not just my wife and I, my kids get to take part in this too. So when there are people who are struggling, they know where to go. It doesn't matter whether they're active duty service members right now, whether they're veterans and have been out of the service for 20 or 30 years. It makes no difference. And we bond immediately. It's because you have a profound respect for someone who's been through similar experiences. I'm grateful that my dad served our country. I'm grateful that my grandfather served our country. And if you saw my name in the program tonight, it is not misspelled. My last name is O'Neill, and everyone in the Army always said Sher Garcia. My dad's Irish and Italian, and my mom is Mexican. So, I forget things sometimes. When I joined the Army and I worked with these guys, I had no idea the bonds that we would build. The brotherhood is real. These guys, their kids call me uncle. My kids call them uncle. They come to the house. When I say they, I mean people like Shane Parsons, who's missing both of his legs at the hips. I got stairs in my house. We're going to go watch a movie upstairs. Shane didn't say, where's the elevator? How am I going to get up there? He put the brakes on his wheelchair. He hopped out of it. He's a bit of a gorilla now. And he climbed up those steps to go watch the movie. And he didn't ask for help. I don't like asking for help a whole lot. The guy who saved Shane's life has lived with me 3 times. He put the tourniquet on, and he saved Shane's life. And he has struggled every day since. Shane just had his 2nd kid. He's married. Talked to girl and going on a date with him, going on another date, marrying him, procreating. But the guy who saved his life has struggled. That's what it's like to be a veteran. Sometimes you carry these things around with you that you don't even realize you're carrying. I don't have to carry these burdens alone. I didn't go to war alone. I didn't get in gunfights alone. I got in them with my team. And I don't fight my demons back here alone. I use my team. I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of my team. You see, I know the fact that you showed up here tonight means that I can come talk to you if I need to, and that you would be there. I see a lot of head nodding right now because it's true. And that makes me happy. Because when I go back and report to my guys that there are people in your community who care, you see, when I finally asked for help, I found people who genuinely wanted to help me. They wanted to make my quality of life better. But them wanting that for me wasn't going to fix it. I had to do something. I'm almost glad there's no Marines in here right now. You see, on the largest amphibious assault ever conducted, there were no Marines in the Army doing it. The military asked me to do things that made me uncomfortable. It made me vulnerable. Being vulnerable made me feel weak. That was not a word I was accustomed to having associated with myself. And I didn't really know how to deal with that. I had all this pride and ego. I don't think you guys understand. I was in the Badass Guys Club. Gave me machine guns, grenades. The scariest thing you'll ever see is giving an 18-year-old machine gun that he's only seen on Rambo in the movies, telling him it's his. They better figure it out pretty quick. And I meant it. Which I love, because they figured it out. They pushed each other. And when I say they, I gave it to one individual soldier. Within 2 weeks, they were taking it apart, putting that machine gun back together, blindfolded, in under 10 seconds. Rewind that for you. I gave an individual machine gun, and within 2 weeks, the entire squad had been trained, not by me, by each other, to take it apart, put it back together, blindfolded, in under 10 seconds. And that was pretty impressive. I thought, maybe we're leading these guys to something good. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I was the best leader ever. I was a much more toxic leader than I ever really thought. I said derogatory stuff to them. I was mean to them. I showed them the same tough love that I was shown when I came into the Army. But eventually I realized that if I was going to get these guys to go to hell with me and come back, I was going to have to earn their respect, and it wasn't by my rank, by yelling at them. It was by mutual respect, by letting them understand that I valued them, that I could not do this job without them. America could not do what we do without each and every one of you who have served, and those of you who have supported them while they did that. I'm grateful that my wife helped support me while I continue to serve our community, and that she has jumped in both feet because she's a little crazy. She's also allowed 3 infantrymen to live with us at various points. I joke because we were, as a forward observer, my job, I'm an expert in land navigation, map reading, that sort of thing, so we put the bombs where they're supposed to be. And I joke that my infantrymen struggle with, no offense, struggle with some of the land navigation, so they come to their fisters so I can help them navigate after they get out of the service. And I will continue to do that until I can no longer get out of my bed. I do that because of people like you who have supported me. I ask that you look to your veteran and thank them. And for the veterans, thank your spouses and your family for supporting us, because you don't fight for generals. You fight for the men and women to your left and right. You fight for your family. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you very much for coming tonight.